We'll call to order Brainerd Safety and Public Works Committee meeting, April 1st, 2024, 7 p.m. in council chambers. We just have 4 items tonight. First item is discussion on change order requests for improvement 2115 Buffalo Hills Gully remediation. Mr. Jesse Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff prepared and included a memo regarding the 4 change order requests that were received from Tom's Backhoe on the Buffalo Hills Gully remediation project. After a thorough review of the requests, including discussion with the contractor, SEH, and city staff, the staff is recommending the following: approving payment requested on change order 1 for the cost of 8 feet of arch pipe at the 48-inch pipe bid cost of $290 per foot. Approve both change orders 2 and 3 as presented, and then finally denying change order request number 4 as requested by the contractor. Reasoning for the recommendations are included in the memo, and staff can assist with questions the council may have.
Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, I asked a bunch of them. I appreciate you getting back to me. Total on this is just over 6,000 with the 3 you're asking us to approve, right?
Approximately, yep, 6520, I believe.
Okay. So is there an explanation as to why, he's experienced, knows how everything is done? So we get the emails, he's sending them to us before, I don't know, it looked like he had contacted the city and communications, but the change order comes first. Then you look it over and then decide if you're gonna give it to us, or is that something you just automatically give to us if he's asking for it, and then you give us your opinion? Is that typically how we do these?
We typically can work through the negotiation process with the contractor, then we bring them to council.
Okay. There seemed to be a step or two missing in that process in this regard, 1 or 2 of these, right?
So we've had numerous discussions with the contractor on this. At this point, this is kind of where we both fell on what our opinions are on the different change order requests.
Okay. So have you ever seen it before where he said the riprap he put in where it started eroding during the Christmas rain event? He said, if I don't get reimbursed on this, I will remove the riprap. Is that something we find as acceptable? I mean, and is that something he could literally do if we didn't agree to this one?
He'd be able to do that. He would be obviously required to install erosion control BMPs as part of the plan. If there was any changes, obviously that would be something that we would discuss between engineering and contractor. But we did have temporary erosion controls in the plan. The riprap was not part of that erosion control plan. So if he were to remove that, we would just expect him to install the other BMPs as planned.
Okay, when you talk about the BMP, best management practices, is that something established by the MPCA?
Are you talking about which ones we use or how it's designed?
Well, when we do a project, isn't the contractor supposed to be aware of what best management practices are according to what the MPCA puts out?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when we talk about a plan, are they bidding on this plan based on what we're telling them to do with best management practices? Is that part of the design?
Yes, sir. That's the intent, is that they are bidding on the project as designed. We have staff that does these designs that is certified in the erosion control management plan design. We also require that the contractor carries a construction site management certification. That kind of covers both ends of it, both in design and construction.
So if I were to look at the design and whatever erosion control items are in there, that would fall in line with what the MPCA requires. You would say that, is that accurate?
Yes, sir. We felt like this plan that was included in this design was sufficient for the project.
Okay. All right. If you had it to do over again, would you do anything different?
For any of the change orders, or that's one specifically, sir?
Well, any of them. I guess specifically that one.
For that one specifically, I would like the contractor to reach out to engineering prior to installing the work and just make sure that we're on the same page and we agree on what the measures are going to be. We had a good discussion about that with the contractor on site about that process and how it should look like in the future.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Sounds like communication is improving and it was an unforeseen circumstance that led to some crazy rain in the middle of winter, and this is what came of it. I just want to clarify for number 4, that was the biggest change order on here, and a lot of it is for extra fill, and I think by denying it, yeah, we're denying it now, but just as a foreshadowing, we're probably going to be revisiting the number and the quantity of extra fill that we're going to have to bring in, just based on walking through it with Jesse and Nick and the contractor about a week and a half ago. So,
Can I ask a question on that?
yeah,
Okay, so on the additional fill, likelihood or not, how is that determined? And it seemed to me in the communication, there was a big question about whether that extra fill is gonna be required based on the volume that's still available. And if he's giving specs to bid on, and the specs fall short of what he's actually asked to provide to fill, is that where we'd say, well, that's a reasonable change order because the specifications didn't call for the right quantity?
So if you're, I think you're referring to the embankment amount of material in the plans. It does happen once in a while if something does get calculated incorrectly or something's unforeseen that we have a significant increase in quantity. We talked about this a little bit with North Brainerd with the existing concrete that was underneath the roadway, if you remember those discussions. Sometimes those things do happen and we aren't able to predict that. In this instance, we did some digging into it and we feel like the calculation in the design didn't sufficiently cover what we had for embankment or what we were going to see for embankment. We're working on addressing this as best as we can, but we'll likely have to take a look at it as we get a little bit closer to the total quantity to determine that number a little bit better. It's a little early right now to ascertain how much material we'll need to finish.
So as you envision this project, when the design was put together, what was the grade gonna be when this was finished? Is there gonna be like a sort of a slight gully of sorts, a little bit of a depression, or what was the plan?
Yes, we knew that there was going to be a gully. There's the amount of fill that we would have needed to level it, essentially, would have been considerably higher, 5 to 6 times as much as we had in the plans. There would also have been impacts to some of the residents that have some improvements, I guess, like a gazebo and stuff like that in the gully. Those would have been impacted as well.
Okay, so the vision you might have had is gonna be, there's gonna be a dip between, say, one side of that where there's a drop off on each side of that gully, right? That's
Yes, sir.
Okay.
With obviously trying to reestablish some sort of vegetation so that way it kind of holds those banks from sloughing any further.
Thank you.
again, looking at where it's at right now, Jeff, it's just hard to even comprehend what it's going to look like in the end. So as we get closer, it'll be a lot easier to figure out the details and figure out exactly how much fill we need. So
All right.
I'm comfortable with these recommendations.
I move that we go with, unless you want, do you want each one separately, Mr. Chair?
I don't think so.
Okay, and I move that we follow staff's recommendations on all 4 points.
Okay, so 1, 2, and 3 are approved and 4 is not. Is that correct?
1 is approved
At a different price.
at a different price.
Explain that one, at a different price,
So
the recommendation.
The pipe was $290 per foot for the entire project, this specific piece. He was going to charge us, was it $600? But we're agreeing to pay the $290 per foot. It's a 4-foot pipe.
Yep. Okay, I'll second it. Thank you.
All right, motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item number 2, we have approval of testing proposals for improvement 22-8, South Brainerd Reconstruction Project. Again, Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff received 2 proposals for construction testing on the South Brainerd reconstruction project. So project testing includes both gravel and concrete testing during construction. After reviewing both proposals and comparing unit rates, staff recommends authorizing the proposal from ITT in the total estimated amount of $11,100.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You said you reviewed them to try to compare apples to apples. Why? Well, and then we see such a difference. So, and you talked about the number of whatever. It doesn't make sense to me. Why are they just that much less expensive? Are we getting the same amount of work for that much less of a price on this? What are we doing here?
So comparing the apples to apples, so it's just how they propose the project. ITT proposes the project almost like a per test basis, where Braun is proposing on a per hour basis and what they think for hourly rates. So we have to try and break them both down into what it would basically cost us per test and compare it that way. Yes, it is a significant amount, but Braun is also proposing a significantly higher number of tests. ITT, it's a little bit less. So that's why we want to make sure that we're comparing it about as evenly as possible. So we break it down to roughly a per test cost and then make a recommendation based on that.
Do they have the same, are we missing anything by not doing more testing then, based on what Braun is recommending or offering?
No, sir. They're basing their proposals on what they think the contractor's progression and their means and methods is going to be. We have a standard testing. It's a manual that tells us how many tests we have to run. The more bigger sets of pours, for instance, is the less amount of tests that we have to do, because sometimes we only have to do like an air test once a day type of thing. But if you do a lot of smaller ones, that increases the number of tests you have to do.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
You have anything?
Nope.
I'll move to approve this at ITT's cost.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item we have approval of sexual assault services placement of awareness ribbons downtown. Again, Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff is requesting approval for sexual assault services to place their awareness ribbons on downtown light poles during the month of April for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. The group will remove the chloroplast signs at the end of April.
Thank you.
Any idea how many they're gonna actually put up?
They do put up a couple dozen for sure.
Okay, just every light pole?
In the downtown area specifically, and next to City Hall in this area. All on the decorative poles along Laurel Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Final item tonight is a discussion on private road access between B Street Northeast and C Street Northeast. This would be 6th Street,
Yes, sir.
Avenue.
6th Avenue.
6th Avenue.
All right, go ahead and unpack that one for us, Mr. Dean.
In 1965, this segment of 6th Avenue Northeast was vacated to the mall property. The segment of road currently functions mainly as a private access to the mall, as well as a few adjacent businesses. As part of the Highway 210 project, the west roundabout that's going to connect Highway 210 to 25 will have a north leg that connects into this street. With the new connections, it's anticipated that the Northeast Brainerd neighborhood would utilize this street more as public right-of-way and access to Highways 210 and 25. With this new function, staff is requesting direction if the council will be willing to maintain this vacated block as public right-of-way, and if so, authorizing staff to begin discussions with the mall property owner in that regard. Based on the anticipated change in use, staff would recommend taking over this block as public right-of-way and maintaining the street as such.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
So when the project was proposed, was this the original location of where the roundabout there just east of McDonald's was gonna be? Or was it at B Street?
I believe there was 3 options, and the option that was selected here, so one of them was a single roundabout at Mill Avenue and 210. The one with 2, I believe, was always in this location, but I was not in the PMT, so I don't know if another option was presented to the PMT at that time.
The other option originally did not include any access to
the north.
shopping center. That was added in our favor to give access to our businesses in that area. So what we're looking at here is, are we going to try to turn that back into a public road and take over the maintenance of that one block? Or do we shoot this traffic all onto what would be B Street and force everybody to kind of drive around or cut through the parking lot if they want to go into the mall or any of those shopping areas? So the big thing is, I think the big question is, what's the cost difference? But in the end, it's one block. I think the smart way to do it and the efficient way to do it would be to allow those cars to drive right into that mall parking lot through this street and turn it back into a public street.
Okay, but
Cost doesn't skyrocket.
my question was, when we had the state of Minnesota stand before us and go street by street by street by street and tell us exactly what's going on at each intersection, was it B Street or was it C Street that we approved? That's what I'm asking. The roundabout.
This part
So
was, this,
is part of the municipal consent layout? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So what's included in the packet here is what was included in the that municipal consent layout, where the north leg connects straight to the north, and then B Street tees in off of the west side of that new leg.
I'm still not understanding. We had a roundabout east of McDonald's, and we went through the whole thing from west to east.
Yes, sir.
What was the intersection going to be at the roundabout for what we approved for that layout last year? What was that intersection? Was it B Street?
C Street coming down this, I'll call it the private road, into the roundabout. That was where the leg was drawn.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to establish. I thought it
Yes,
was
sir.
always B Street, so
No,
that's
and-
why I'm asking.
And to clarify, so MnDOT does not allow for private access roads into roundabouts as legs. This is why, if we don't take that one as a public street, this is where they would want to flip and have that tie into B Street, as B Street would be the only, call it public road in that adjacent area.
right. That's how I understood it.
Okay. So if we don't get permission and we ask for it, what happens?
If they don't want to turn it back over as public right-of-way, it would just remain as a private street, and they would continue to maintain it as such. We would likely have to flip the alignment of where that north leg comes into and just go into B Street rather than the private road. It would still have a connection to that leg, but it would just come in at a T to B Street rather than directly as it is shown in the drawing.
It would direct traffic more intentionally onto B Street
Correct.
instead of what this design shows, which is technically what would be 6th Street,
Sixth Avenue.
6th Avenue. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Jesse, so it looks to me on the next picture, nope, that one, though, yep. Would they be able to make both a left and make a left turn, because it could obviously make a right turn out of that T toward the roundabout?
I believe they would. As you can see, this is not a sophisticated
Yes.
drawing. So there's no guarantee, but I think that would be our intent, is that if we were to do that, we would want to allow for the left coming
Yeah.
off of that leg so that they could access the roundabout.
I see that being awkward. I would be interested in hearing, I see that being awkward for the property owner too. And like anybody using that area. So I would be in favor of exploring what the property owner might think of it.
Yeah, I think if we move forward and trying to at least make it a public right-of-way again, that gives us more options on working with the owner of the property currently and the tenants for the other businesses around there as well as the rest of the public, just to come up with whatever design is best. I think what we have here is pretty close, but we can make some tweaks and changes as we get closer.
This one or the other one?
Are they much different?
Well, this is the Sixth Avenue is teeing into the leg that would be the north leg going to,
Yep.
yep, and the other one is the T is coming, that the northbound goes into, Sean, could you go to the one up? So see how that one's going right into the mall area?
Yeah.
And then you've got a T coming from the side.
Yep.
But I think that side street, B, is gonna have a lot less traffic on it. Either way, honestly, which is why I think the other version will be less. I would be more cautious about that intersection because I think you're gonna have more people doing the turning in and out to get to the mall area.
Off of B Street or off of the highway?
The roundabout.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I guess I'm confused. I think this shows that they would be more easily accessing the mall, which is what you're saying.
No, I think this one is gonna be harder to access the mall, but they're gonna do it anyway.
But you're talking about the red part of the drawing?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. No,
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree
okay.
with you then. I thought you were talking about the white parts.
No.
Okay.
I was
Did
talking
that
about
make
the
sense,
road.
Jeff?
Yeah, it's crystal clear.
Okay, yeah. We'll visit this again at some point, but should we move forward with a motion?
I move that staff be directed to reach out to the property owner in question.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk, Jesse.
Other than that, hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We can adjourn to the council meeting.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.